You've heard what I thought were the best and the worst movies of 2022, so without further ado, let's get into all the films in between. The nominees and winners will range from films that are from different sides of the good and bad spectrum, even if they're nominated in the same category. I'll go into more details when we get into those specifically. Let's hand out the first award, Out of Nowhere. Sometimes you just come across a film after seeing a short teaser or word of mouth. These listed here are the ones I didn't have much hype or knowledge about going in, and surprised me with how much I enjoyed them. The Curse is a horror movie that has a great foreboding atmosphere, and slower storytelling never feels like it truly drags, keeping you invested the whole time. See How They Run is a whodunit with the comedic energy reminiscent of Clue. Every character is loads of fun, and the staging gives the film a quirky personality that sets it apart. Duel is one where I knew the premise going in, but it's the direction and delivery from the cast that really makes it unique. The awkward deadpan mix of drama and comedy that cross with one another makes it a movie that, unlike the main character, has no struggle with identity. From the trailers, Smile made me feel like it'd be closer in quality with that Truth or Dare movie from a few years back. I'm pleased to say it's actually quite strong in its writing with only some hiccups in certain points of the story. A decent scare to check out. But I can't give the award to anything else but the film that fits this category the best, Barbarian. Like I said, how I picked the winner is how much knowledge I lacked and how pleased I was with the viewing. I saw the poster and kinda remember reading the IMDb synopsis months before and it fell off my radar. Great tension, creepy and disturbing scares, a good range of character dynamics. I highly recommend Barbarian for any horror or thriller fan who's missed out on it.
This is perfectly natural.
Not mad, just disappointed. The other side of the coin for Out of Nowhere, this award goes to the movie that I was excited for and was unfortunately let down by the most. That doesn't mean these movies are god-awful or really that bad, but had so much potential that went to waste. Don't Worry Darling is an example of a movie that was thought visually first and the story felt lacking the more it went on. The trailers build up just as much suspense with the visuals as the movie does, which isn't the best thing. The weird and abstract cutaways do little to further set suspense, when in reality just having the main character talking to someone does the trick better. From the art style and diverse cast, I was hoping to get some goofy adventure fun, and although the film does offer that, the main overarching character drama the story focuses on doesn't go well with the unique setting we're given. Strange World is like a Honda Civic with a really good paint job. Now this movie is a bit different. I wasn't crazy hyped for The Gray Man, but that didn't stop the movie from impressing me with its aggressive mediocrity. It's one of the most generic action films I've seen, and the Gray Man title actually fits it pretty well in all the wrong ways. The cast does their job, but their star power is truly the only thing this film has going for it. But no other movie let me down this year more like Thor: Love and Thunder. The follow-up to a fantastic MCU movie created by the same guy as before, Taika is one of my favorite directors out there. I've seen him handle comedy and heavy drama so well with Jojo Rabbit, so I know he's capable of doing that. But Love and Thunder sees anything less than full-blown goofy and pushes it aside. I can't say who's mostly at fault for this, but this installment really didn't do anyone favors. There are decent dramatic and character-growing scenes, but the jokes don't let the film breathe. Especially the outdated memes and the improv feels a lot more noticeable in that no one thought the joke through and is just trying to do something funny and hoping it lands, and it usually doesn't. Also, straight up feels like false advertisement with the Guardians being part of the movie. The scenes in the trailers are basically the only scenes that they're actually in at the beginning. The studio knew that and really tried to act like this movie was going to be more than what it was. Who is this for? This category goes to movies that seem to have a hard time really finding their audience. To some, it's because the writing is so underwhelming, while the source material has plenty to work with. Those examples would be movies like Fistful of Justice. I've never seen Wu Assassins. I saw a trailer for the movie and said it looks like a silly fun time, and I was half right. At about the halfway point, I found out it was basically a finale to the TV show, and even with the knowledge that I'm missing some context, I was able to follow the movie just fine. But with the generic and poorly made note this movie went out on, I can't see how this would be satisfying for a whole fan base. Uncharted is another example of a movie that has source material famous for being exciting and fun to experience, but what you're given is a super bland National Treasure knockoff that lacks the momentum and thrills the game series is known for. However, with that said, the award has to ironically go to a film I think is better than these nominees. Wendell and Wild is a great looking movie. The stop motion style, character designs, personalities, direction, atmosphere, it's all there. The big issue is the weird balance the movie really tries to play at. It's rated PG-13 for reasons I get. The material can be a little tense and aggressive for some kids, and the lore is oddly complex. The writing of how the story plays out is extremely simple in one note. Resolutions are structured like they're made for little kids. A bad guy is immediately swayed over with the power of love and all is forgiven. The main bad guys are foiled and everything works out just fine with no thought in how the future of these actions will actually play out. The writing can't be enjoyed from an older audience, while the movie's identity can't be appreciated by the younger crowd. Truly, you have to question who exactly was this made for.
I told him. Whoa. Push.
At face value. In this category, some movies are exactly what they present themselves as. That ranges from fun-loving comedies mixed in with underwhelming use of premises. The Lost City, like I mentioned, is a romantic adventure comedy that is focused on giving the audience a good time, and that's it. And it succeeds in doing that. Firestarter is a Stephen King adaptation that, although is panned by many, I'd say it's okay. Nothing offensively bad, just never gets dramatic heights you'd expect, or at the very least feel invested in. Dragon Ball Super Superhero is full of fan service longtime fans have been craving for. Outside of that, not much else. The animation doesn't really fit like the 2D and 3D mix used in Broly. The story is really weak and forced at times, but again, it's clearly designed to let two underused characters have some time to shine. The winner this year goes to Gone in the Night. This horror thriller had potential, but never quite gets out of first gear. A lot of that blame goes to the editing and ordering of scenes. They have sequences of your average thriller building tension. The issue is, you were shown information the scene just before that breaks certain reveals because you already see what's coming. It also tries to do the twist that's really easy to call if you've ever seen a movie before, but slowly tries to convince you something else is the true twist, just to turn around at the last second and reveal it was the first thing you guessed 5 minutes in. I think reordering the editing of the film would possibly help its okay story. Art House Entertainment, aka this year's horror category. Time to dive into the smaller releases this year, with possibly one exception. Not only is this more focused on the same indie flicks, every movie here just so happens to be a horror movie. Men takes a psychological twist to its story and uses powerful and disturbing visuals and effects with a range of metaphors. X is a layered and fun reprisal of classic slashers, with over-the-top blood, crazy characters, and oddly borderline sympathetic villain motivations. But if that type of era of horror isn't your thing, 6 months later the prequel Pearl was released, this time taking motifs from the more wholesome golden age of film. Wholesome in the psychotic, breakdown, mass murdery kind of way. All those movies had strong styles, and I appreciate to different extents, but the horror movie I'm giving the award to this year goes to The Black Phone. It may not be the most visually striking, metaphor-heavy, or extravagantly violent, but the story and look it does have grabbed me the most. The cast do a great job of fueling the terror that looms over everything. I liked all the movies listed before, but The Black Phone just barely tops it. This is still going? Everyone wants to say Hollywood is out of ideas, and even though that's clearly not true if you just look for movies that come out, they also will beat any dead horse no matter how often it's beaten or even how long since the last time anything made contact with it. Examples of those would be Top Gun Maverick, a sequel to a movie 36 years in the making. Maverick balances everything better than its predecessor for sure, so its existence can be justified. The dogfights are amazing and the performances are overall solid. Lightyear, on the other hand, is a weird spin-off prequel Elseworld story that follows the main character that inspired the famous Toy Story toy, Buzz Lightyear. As a kid's movie isolated on its own, it's fine. As a Pixar movie, not one of their best. The story feels tiresome, almost too modern at parts when it's supposed to be a movie from 1995, and is a reminder why Pixar doesn't need to stick their hand into dark reboots of their own work. However, this award can't go anywhere else than Halloween Ends. Finally, evil can die tonight on such an imbalanced script. A movie that wants to break free from the shackles of a franchise long dead, but contractually obligated to fulfill what is advertised. The new character focused on is not a bad dive into the series, raising the question on is evil born or made. And when the movie distances itself from the large mechanic murderer in the room, it feels like it can go somewhere new and interesting. But god damn it, we need Laurie versus Michael for the 8th time and get rid of any chance the new character going anywhere to help evolve the franchise. It's better than Halloween Kills, but is that really saying much? Think of the Children. Movies are for everyone, so which film do I think was the best overall kid/family movie of the year that wasn't in my best of 2022 video? The Bad Guys was an unexpected fun time that has a great voice cast, exciting action, and smooth animation style. Secret Headquarters is like Home Alone, but a group of kids had access to the Batcave. Unfortunately, it's not nearly as cool as that sounds. The story unfortunately being pretty bland and mostly forgettable. DC League of Super Pets is a decent little flick to turn on when just wanting to watch something simple and cute that has some good jokes here and there. Turning Red, however, has no competition to winning this award. A touching story about a girl's journey into becoming her own person and the struggles that come with acceptance from not only her peers or her own family, but even herself. An honest look at kids just being goofy and sometimes cringe, cause kids are goofy and sometimes cringy. If you haven't seen it on Disney Plus yet, don't hesitate to check it out.
It's gonna be me.
Two-toned. This category may seem similar to Who Is This For?, but I may be splitting some hairs here. This category focuses specifically on movies that have some troubles really balancing story elements that hold it back from being its best self. Where the Crawdads Sing has a story that follows a girl that goes through a number of hardships throughout her life. Mixed in with said hardships is this very lovely and sweet romance angle. Both on their own fit with the type of drama you'd normally see them in, but the contrast of how storybook romantic one half is, just to be followed by some really upsetting sequences for this poor girl, can make an audience quite split. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness has a great arc that follows Scarlet Witch and even Doctor Strange himself. The movie loses focus not when jumping around universes, but the character that allows the universe hopping to happen. The lack of character growth compared to the previously mentioned characters sticks out when they try to treat America Chavez as just as important, when it feels more like building up the movies instead of one you're watching at the moment. Black Panther Wakanda Forever falls victim to this as well, only the balancing issue is way more noticeable than Multiverse of Madness. The movie is wonderful and a respectful tribute to Chadwick Boseman, the scenes between his family as they learn to deal with their grief and the country mourning their fallen king, having to fight and stand their ground and not show weakness to the rest of the world, characters refusing to accept nature taking its unforgiving course, and how we may lose loved ones along the journey, but they're never truly gone as they live on through us. Also, there's a fish guy who hates people because he's basically Killmonger, but a lot more heavy-handed with his message, not nearly as personal feeling, and we've literally already seen it. Because this movie has to connect and set up future films in the franchise, the personal parts have to be weighed down by a new action figure for your kids to play with. Namor's backstory and introduction could have worked somewhere else, but maybe not in a sequel where it feels like it's a more cartoony version of the last villain. Now that's what I call a movie. Sometimes all a movie needs to be is entertaining. That doesn't mean these movies listed here have no deep narratives going necessarily, but more so these movies are focused on being fun and enjoyable. A24's Bodies, Bodies, Bodies has a great mix of comedy and horror with a memorable cast of characters and maybe a little commentary. Jackass Forever is the return to more painful stunts, stupid pranks, and gross out gags, this time with a few new faces with the classic team. Bullet Train, much like the locomotive it's set in, is a non-stop action comedy that has a range of colorful characters. Well, I guess it makes a few stops, because it's a train after all, but between those stops, it's very fast. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is Nick Cage playing himself, and depending on how you feel about that statement is a pretty good indicator how you'll feel about the movie. It's so ridiculous and over the top, but full of great bits. A lot like Nick Cage's career. Even though all those movies were a great time to sit through, something about Violent Night compels me to give it the award. The premise is fun, the cast all play their simple yet entertaining roles just right, and it brings Home Alone hijinks with an R rating. A new holiday classic for the family. Well, some of the family to enjoy. Art imitates life. Not all movies are fictional, some are fictionalized versions of real events. This award is aimed at movies that are based on real people's experiences with a touch of that Hollywood magic. I Love My Dad is James Morosini's retelling of his dad catfishing him as an online girlfriend to stay in touch with him. The pure cringe from the uncomfortable situation builds and builds with some heartfelt moments and unfortunate hilarity. The Fabelmans is Steven Spielberg exploring his early childhood to young adulthood and how his love for filmmaking was discovered alongside family drama and hardships that shaped him into the person he eventually became. Babylon is a boisterous look at the film industry as it made its transition out of the silent era. Blossoming troubled stars, veteran actors on their way out, rags to riches from networking and people-pleasing, the unforgiving politics as the public became more knowledgeable of the backstage goings-on of Hollywood, told through the lens that has a love and respect for that bygone era in film. Out of all the films that fit this category, the winner has to go to Apollo 10.5, using rotoscope animation to turn this coming-of-age film into a colorful and imagine-fueled story. We take a nice, slow, and simple look at life in 1960s Houston, Texas. Slice-of-life storytelling takes up the majority of the runtime, but peppered in is the imagination of a child and their fascination with the space race, a nostalgic piece of art that feels like a real example of art formed from the real world.
Houston, this is Apollo 10
That wraps it up for the Eh-mmys this year. I know there were quite some movies that seemed missing from all three videos recapping what I saw in 2022. If I missed out on some of your favorites, I'm sorry, but what are you gonna do? Maybe I'll see what I missed at the end of next year. I still won't talk about them, but you can imagine what I thought about them. Anyway, I gotta get going. I hope to see you guys in the next video.